correspondent Jam Sardar here now with more. You got a sneak preview, right?
Absolutely, Janet. This documentary tries to explain what's really going on, why radical Muslims are hell-bent on fighting this war on the West. But more than an explanation, this film is also a warning that America can't let down its guard. And as the filmmakers try to tell us, for radical Islam, it's not just a mission, it's an obsession. The attacks of September 11th.
London's worst attack since the Second World War.
Bombings in England and Spain. Violence all around the world. A new documentary tackles the questions why, and why do they hate us? The answer, they say, has nothing to do with the war in Iraq, nothing to do with our support of Israel.
It's not necessarily about oil, and it's not necessarily about our foreign policy. It's not necessarily about any of the things that we do or do not do. We could drop $100 bills for a year on end in every single country in the Islamic world, and this hatred would still persist.
They hate us, the filmmakers say, because we don't live like they do, because we aren't Muslim, because they're obsessed.
We call it the war on terror. It's not a war on terror. It's a war against a specific group of the Islamic world, the so-called radicals, who actually want to destabilize the West, and they want to replace the Constitution, for instance, in the United States with the Sharia.
إلى البيت الأبيض علشان إن شاء الله ينتصر الإسلام ويتحول البيت الأبيض إلى البيت المسلم.
يعني هيروحوا يحتلوا البيت الأبيض يعني ولا؟
لا بسواد الإسلام وأفكاره سوف يتغير البيت الأبيض.
Make all of America practice Islam? The whole world bow to Allah? Some see it as simple rhetoric to fire up the faithful.
قد حكمنا الدنيا وسيأتي يوم والله نحكم فيه كل الدنيا. سيأتي يوم نحكم فيه أمريكا. سيأتي يوم نحكم فيه بريطانيا ونحكم فيه كل العالم.
But the men who made the documentary gathered plenty of video and talked to plenty of experts to help make their case. And as hard as it may be to believe, they say the extremists really are bent on making us all Muslim.
They believe in it more than you and I could ever imagine. There is nothing in their life, in their worldview, that is more important than seeing the Quran as the ultimate document and Sharia controlling the entire world.
The film shows how they recruit people to the cause by painting Americans as the one bent on world domination, and by indoctrinating their children so they'll join the jihad. That's why the filmmakers say we need to wake up and realize what we're up against.
We have to understand. Otherwise, 9/11 comes and goes, and we wake up for a minute, and then we hit the snooze button, and we go back to sleep. And another terror attack happens, and we wonder, why is this happening? Once we understand why it's happening, then we can understand what we have to do about it.
I guess that is the million-dollar question, Jam. What can we do?
Well, several things. First is just spreading the word. The directors of this film want to make sure that everybody knows the real reason behind this terrorism, behind this war on the West. They say a lot of people know there's terrorism out there, but don't fully comprehend that this is the reason why. One of the other things that we can do is support the moderate Muslims in these countries. If we're going to change minds, it's not going to be because the West goes back into the Arab world and tells people what to do. It's going to be because moderate Muslims in those countries are going to try and change the landscape themselves. As Americans, they're not going to listen to us if we come and tell them to change their mindset. It's up to the moderate Muslims in those countries to do it, and it's up to us to support the moderate Muslims who want to see that change.
But the extremists, they hate us because we don't live like they do.
That's what the directors say. Obviously, there are people who are going to take issue with that.
Right.
The U.S. support of Israel, the war in Iraq. We overthrew a democratically elected government in Iran in the 1950s. People there are still bitter about that. So there are lots of other reasons, but the filmmakers in this movie suggest the main number one reason is because they want to see an Islamic world, and we're not yet Islamic.
But the group of radicals, that's a minority.
Absolutely, and the filmmakers go out of their way to point this out. You see the message at the beginning of the film, and you see the message at the end. There are many, many more moderate Muslims, many, many more peaceful Muslims than there are the radical Muslims who are hell-bent on making this change and using violent means to do it. But the point, one of the points the directors try to make is there are 1 billion Muslims in the world. If, say, 10% of them are radical and want to make these changes and use any means to do it, it's still a lot of people, and that's why we need to be so careful.
And it's scary to see the kids in that documentary all fired up the way they were. You said indoctrination. It's like brainwashing, isn't
Absolutely,
it?
absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that it's so hard to change the minds when kids have been brought up their whole lives to believe that Jews are evil and America's bad and Britain's bad. How do you change a mind that's been programmed to believe what we've seen there? The documentary contains many more. We saw one of the chilling images of kids spouting off this propaganda, but there are many more pictures of kids carrying weapons, kids in battle dress, and yeah, it's something that in a lot of countries and a lot of societies begins at a very early age, and something we need to be careful of.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing that in Iraq and Iran and places like that, where they're starting the kids very, very young to think just one way, the violent way, and certainly that's not the way to go.
Absolutely. And part of the problem is with us in Iraq, with us supporting Israel, although they say that's not the main reason that this radical Islam hates us so much, they use our military operations in Iraq as a way to convince people and say, look, they're coming here to dominate us, so we need to fight back. We need to do something. We need to step up and, you know, become a suicide bomber, whatever the situation may be. Yeah. And they're using our military action against us in order to further support their cause.
It's a kind of an ominous situation.
It's a very scary situation.
Something to keep an eye on, as
Absolutely.
you say, and thank you for bringing that to light.